Hey guys, after yesterday's video I had a question. What does de-dollarization mean for the rest of the world? Broadly speaking, it's bad. The reason is, say you're dating a nice boy and you meet somebody better. Maybe it's gold, maybe it's Bitcoin, maybe it's a gold-backed currency like the Swiss franc used to be. Well, that's a good thing. I mean, it's bad for the old boyfriend, but it's good for you and it's certainly good for the new guy. On the other hand, let's say your boyfriend's turned into a monster. He takes you to McDonald's on your birthday. He doesn't even get you a sundae. He drinks too much. He complains about your carbon footprint. He gambles with the rent check. In that bad boyfriend scenario, all those foreigners selling their previously dreamy dollars, now they take a hit on the way out, a little kick in the butt to send them on their way to whatever loser will take them in. The next best store of value. The first sellers take a small hit, maybe 1%. The last sellers take a big hit, and this is why the rush accelerates. So where do they go? Some will shift out of fiat currency altogether to gold or Bitcoin or commodities or something else. This is because once money's on the move, it's temporarily easier to put it somewhere interesting. The transaction costs are temporarily relatively low. And of course, some countries will remain in the abusive relationship, either because they live next door like Mexico, so it would be really awkward breaking up. They have to use dollars whether they like it or not. Or because they're desperate. It was so good, they just want things to be the way they were. You paying hundreds of billions propping up NATO or bailing out their banks every tequila crisis. Still, the vast majority of flight will be to other fiat currencies, to the euro or yen or the UK pound or some other currency that's also afflicted by an inflationary central bank using the inflation, recession, bailout cycle to usurp the liberties and fortunes of their people. What would that most likely scenario look like? Well, today the US makes up about 60% of foreign exchange reserves, while the euro, yen, and pound together make up about 30%. China is 3%. But going by GDP, the US should be about 25%, not 60%. The euro, yen, and pound should be about 23%, a little bit lower than today. That's because these currencies are quasi-reserve currencies, especially for some neighboring countries. And China should be about 12%. About 4 times higher than it is today. So if it's a fiat free-for-all, we'd expect the US share to trend down towards its GDP share, losing about half of foreign demand. Then if the US is particularly bad, say if the US government weaponizes the dollar to conduct proxy wars or bully other countries, that percent could keep sliding into the gutter with the Chinese yuan, implying about a 90% drop in foreign demand for the dollar, a proper rush for the exits. By the way, these changes in reserve currency have happened many times in history, in fact about every 100 years, meaning we're due, counting from World War I, when the dollar took over. The most recent being when the dollar replaced the pound after the Bank of England jumped off a cliff to finance World War I. That was definitely a bad boyfriend scenario. It was the same with the franc after the French Revolution, another very bad boyfriend. Then the Dutch guilder, which was an okay boyfriend, but it was targeted by sociopathic pickup artists in London and Paris. You might argue this is the China scenario today, although that's only part of it. The dollar has definitely not been a very good boyfriend. In fact, you'd have to go back to the Dutch guilder in the 1600s or Venice in the 1300s to get a proper good boyfriend scenario, as each took over from inflationary regimes in, respectively, the Spanish Empire and the gamble with the rent check Florentine Republic. Meanwhile, back here in 2023, we'll be watching. See you next time.